the topic that we address is where's the money coming from? This is the elephant in the room. The implementation of a fair taxation system is the overarching mechanism that has caused or at least contributed to current child poverty issues, and reform in this field holds the prospect of providing the needed relief. How would a housing tax work? We would take the total value of all housing held by each individual, deduct registered first mortgages, and allow $1 million exemption to reflect that everyone is entitled to a basic family home. Then we treat this net equity as if it were a term deposit, generating a taxable interest return. When houses are held in trust and companies, the income would be taxed at the company or trust rate with no exemption. Calculated annually and pegged to the capital value of properties, this effective income would be taxed at the person's marginal tax rate. It would affect those with second homes, multiple rentals and high value properties, but without significantly affecting the great majority of homeowners. The question becomes, would your party support this approach to housing wealth taxation? And again, I pose the question, if the answer is yes, what are the specific steps your party would implement to carry out this policy and when? If your answer is no, what are the brief but precise reasons for rejecting the policy? And I think we have nationals to start the ball rolling.
So no, we say no to that. So delivering tax relief is what National is about. So more taxes, more spending leaves everyone worse off. So National believes Kiwis should keep more of what they earn. So I'm just going to read this word. Instead of finding Kiwis are being hit. We've been really hit quite hard at the moment. With inflation running rampant, everyone's being pulled into higher tax brackets, despite not being better off. So Kiwis are running faster, only to keep falling further behind. National is the party of low tax, and our bottom line is tax relief for lower and middle income earners by adjusting tax brackets for inflation. This is how much Kiwis would save under National's proposal to adjust tax brackets for inflation. $45,112 annual tax saving, $55,000 income annual tax saving would be $800, $75,000, $950, $85,000, $1,043, and $150,000, about the same. So what we want to deliver, this is what we would deliver at a minimum. We would take into account the economic and fiscal conditions at the election, and if we can go even further providing Kiwis with tax relief, we will. In just the past 5 years, Labour has dreamed of a number of new taxes. National present a fully costed tax-paying election which will lay out a path to unwind a number of new taxes. So housing tax would not be in our fiscal policy. We want to take into account the economic and fiscal conditions at the election, and if we go even further into providing Kiwis with tax relief, we will. That's our stance.
Well, I think the elephant in the room is that you guys have all seen our tax policy being played out in the media this week and the weeks before that. So I guess with the tax switch right now, it is a not yet. And I think what the Cabinet made the decision based on is just the current economic climate. And so they made a collective decision, we made a collective decision not to go there for this time being. But Chippy hasn't ruled it out for the next government, and he's definitely, I think as a Labour Party, our new tax policies will come out very soon, so just a few more steps to go, and so we will come out with a new set of policies as well. But I think just back on to kind of what our friend said in the National Party, we stand on our track record of extending that bright line test, of making sure that Kiwis, especially the first-time home buyers, have a fair chance in those auctions that I had to deal through quite dramatically for the last 2 years. Making sure that we have to have the right conditions for our first home buyers and supporting people into their first homes with our warmer, drier Kiwi homes as well, supporting that rental market and making sure there's real leverage for the other side. But I think when it comes to tax, we need to have the equity approach. I completely agree. And so in this last term, we've lifted the highest band as well, but also we've closed some of the loopholes in terms of the trust as well, the tax rates for trusts, making sure that people can't hide behind that. And at the same time, I think what the work that David Parker has done in terms of exposing some of those, the top 1%, and having actual data for IRD to base their investigations on, so that we actually have an informed starting point of all of our tax conversations. That's the work we've done this government, and so we'll look to forward that as well in the next one.
So it's a yes on the principle, and we ourselves have decided to take a tax on wealth, the selection of 2.5% on assets that are of 2 million and higher that don't have debt attached to them. We also decided to bring forward a 1.5% trust tax so that people can just shift that wealth into a trust to avoid paying it. And we've also are going to reverse the tax cuts to the corporate tax that the national government introduced last time to bring more revenue as well, and coupled with a $10,000 tax-free threshold. So effectively a tax switch. We believe that the time is now to tax wealth, to actually redistribute that wealth to public services, to an income guarantee. And I actually am really opposed to the level of discussion the major parties are having on this, because on the one hand we've got tax cuts that are actually not fully costed. We haven't been told where that money is going to come from, which services are going to be cut. So it's actually a lie to say that it is fully costed. On the other hand, being told that the time is not right to actually rebalance wealth. The time is right, because if anything, wealth inequality is getting worse. And during the COVID lockdowns, we saw an increase in wealth inequality in this country. So if not now, when? And Chris Hipkins is not going to be the one who has the power to rule out a wealth tax. Actually, it is the voters. So if the voters want to see tax reform of the agenda, you've got a few parties actually represented in Parliament now who are fighting for wealth redistribution and tax reform. So if you want that on the agenda in the next government, you've got to vote for the parties that are actually putting it in there for negotiations for the next government.
Well, again, we're here to talk about reducing or eliminating poverty and child poverty. And for Te Pāti Māori, we're saying that we need to rectify the imbalance of the current tax system. We need to be able to shift the burden from the poor to the wealthy. And in a nutshell, what we're saying, and I'm going to reiterate, remove GST from Kai, give tax cuts to 98% of Aotearoa, tax people and developers who have empty homes, tax people who sit on undeveloped land, tax the wealthy at higher levels, tax foreign companies who operate in Aotearoa, increase the company tax rate and put an end to tax evasion. Kia ora.
Really great topic. I mean, it's interesting to see two parties here who aren't presenting real tax policy to address child poverty. We've got two parties who, have basically copied our policy, which is great. Imitation, great form of flattery. We love the tax switch. Really great intentions, but I think the wealth tax could be done a little bit differently. So with the land value tax, we're actually taxing the real culprit of the wealth inequality that we have in New Zealand, like a wealth tax. The problem with wealth tax is capital flight. And what does that mean? So the wealthiest will take all of their assets, assets they can take overseas, and what that will mean is we'll devalue the New Zealand currency. People won't want the New Zealand currency. That means our imports will cost more and our exports will be devalued, and that will actually harm our economy overall, because unfortunately a wealth tax will only work if everyone had a wealth tax, but we belong to this global economy and that won't work. There's a $30 billion fiscal hole in the Te Pāti Māori tax policy, and so we need to know where that money is coming from. With our policy is completely costed because it's based completely on the land value of urban residential land only. So we actually say Māori land is off limits for the land value tax, as well as agricultural land as well. So it's just on urban residential land. And what that will actually do is incentivise people to use that land more effectively. So it's not about the capital value. So two pieces of land, one with more housing, more apartments that can actually house more people, that will have greater capital value, but we will not tax that more because it's just on the land. And that will actually help us solve the real issues, which is housing, which is going to affect child health, child development, and actually do something about poverty. I think our policy actually is probably the most similar to what you guys have got, a broad-based, low tax that will actually affect what will get all the land value, but the value will be returned in the form of income tax returned to most workers in New Zealand.